Roy, but now she's using it to take out people that she believes to be immoral. And Dean says one of my favorite things, which is, may God save us from half the people who think that they're doing God's work.
I know. Just like the entire Crusades. They didn't even think they were doing God's work. They just wanted to loot Constantinople again. I'm off topic.
I literally rewinded that 3 times to see him say that again, because I was like, I love this. I love this quote.
They agree that they need to put a stop to this before anyone else dies. I mean, I feel like Dean just did not mention to Sam that he's going to be the next one.
That was my next note. Dang it. I was okay, so, Sam's all like, oh, what's happening is horrible, but, like, what are you gonna do? Let someone else die to save her? And Dean literally takes a minute to debate it, and I was like, that's obviously because he knows he's next, but Sam doesn't know he's next, and I thought he was gonna tell him, but then he didn't, and I was like, oh, he didn't tell him. And so then I was like, okay, but he still ultimately decides to sacrifice her, and I was like, alright, so this is for one of 3 reasons. 1, Sue-Ann will continue, like, okay, if Dean dies, Sue-Ann will just continue killing more people, probably, to Dean, like, if he's not there to stop her. And 2, the job of getting revenge on his mom, obviously. He still has unfinished business doing that. And then 3, Sam. I feel like those were, like, the 3 reasons that he convinced himself, like, okay, no, I'm gonna let her die. Like, I'm not gonna sacrifice myself to save her. But I feel like it was, like, a hard battle for him in that moment. Like, Sam was oblivious, but he knew he was next.
The fact that for, like, half of this altercation, I mean, Sam eventually finds out that Dean's next, and then the stakes are high, but the fact that for the first half of this, Sam does not know how high the stakes are is so scary. It adds a whole new layer of fear for me.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's not good. The sheriff's car is still parked at the tent, and you might recall that they were pretty clear that they did not want to see the Winchesters back again, so naturally they go ahead and park about 10 feet away. Literally in the line of sight. We can see their car, like the police cars behind the Impala. Like, it is... We don't want to see you here, but like we're just gonna park directly where you can see us without even getting out of the car.
Honestly, the number of times where they could have just put on like really crappy Halloween masks and waltzed past the cops, it would just be so funny.
Sam whispers at Dean a little bit, who feels really bad that Layla's gonna die, and Sam points out that if Layla isn't healed, she'll die soon, and that's horrible for her, but yeah, if she gets healed, someone else is gonna die tonight who was supposed to live. Yeah, Sam reminds Dean that they can't play God, so they're going.
But they kind of are.
A little, I would say no. I mean, maybe. You could look at it that way.
Okay, now I'm having a really tough debate in my head.
I know.
How dare you?
Because maybe Layla was supposed to live. Maybe, like, the angels and heaven wanted her to live, and they were trying to put all this into place, and then the Winchesters come along and screw it all up.
I mean, I feel like they have better ways to cure people's brain tumors, but maybe not.
Imagine if they sent Cass, like, in season 1.
And they just missed each other.
Imagine if in, like, season, 6 or 7, Layla came back, and it turns out she got healed by some other faith healer. Because the next time that we see a faith healer, I'm pretty sure it's an angel.
I feel like they could have put her in the episode where it was, like, going through the people that died because of the Winchesters.
I would have much rather see Layla than Meg in that episode.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
But I'm sure they couldn't afford Julie Benz by that time.
Oh, probably not.
Oh, yeah.
Dexter had really taken off.
Oh, for sure. But depending on what year that was, she wasn't in it.
While we're doing this, we should just go through the episodes and make a list of all the people that should have been in that episode instead of the people who were.
A great many.
For people who aren't following along or who are on season 1, in season 4, I believe it is. Yeah, it's season 4. In early season 4, there's an episode where a bunch of ghosts get brought back of people who Sam and Dean and Bobby have let die. And they're like really angry and they're blaming people for their deaths, but all of the choices were bad. All of the choices were people who did not have a lot of valid reason to be angry with the Winchesters. Layla would have been a much better choice.
Although Layla's she doesn't really seem like she'd get angry at them, though.
Yeah, she's very at peace with her fate in this episode. But I would have loved if, like, she ended up going to a different faith healer or, like, an angel came down and healed her or something. That would have been, like, she just popped up again later on. That would have been cool. I really, really quick here want to... Actually, no, I'll get to it in a sec. Dean distracts the police so that Sam can go to Sue-Ann and stop her. There are, like, buses and trailers. Like, there are all these, like, sick and hurt people living in, like, a muddy field hoping to be healed. Like, this is a lot, honestly.
This is depressing.
I'm sure, like, a lot of these people need, like, a lot of extra, like, medical equipment and stuff. And, like, I'm sure living in a trailer or, like, a bus is not helpful to whatever else they have going on. I'm sure most of these people are here because modern medicine hasn't been helpful to them, but still, I'm just like...
This is, like, their last resort.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, how good can... I guess I'm just concerned about quality of life in this field.
Yeah. Although, maybe since most of these people are probably, like, close to death anyway, so maybe quality of life isn't really the first thing on their minds.
I guess that, the prospect of living might be more... That's a choice that these people, I assume, have made for themselves. I'm not going to tell them what to do. That's where I'm going to land on that. Someone has a really giant dog in their trailer, seemingly unattended, and I'm just like, oh, poor baby. It's a really big dog, and it's, like, in this trailer. There's no people around.
Aww.
I'm sad for him. I'm sure he's only been left alone for a few minutes. I'm sure it's just while the service is actively going on. But someone please check on this dog. Sam finds the altar, and Dean is definitely the target for tonight, because there's, like, a photo of him with his face crossed out in, like, blood. Sue-Ann finds him, and Sam knocks the altar over, but Sue-Ann locks him in the cellar. And Sue-Ann is convinced that Layla deserves to live, and Dean now deserves to die. And I wanted to go back really quick here to some of the other sacrifices. There's pro-choice activists, gay teacher, whatever you'd like to call David the protester guy. The fact that Dean is specifically being associated with these people, considered at least by, like, Sue-Ann to be, like, bad or immoral is really interesting. Sam's photo isn't on this altar, which is interesting, because he's the one who brought Dean here and, like, is now having this, like, big confrontation with her. But that just seems like an oversight. I don't know if you can do, like, a 2-for-1 on the killing, but it seems like an oversight to only have one Winchester's life on the altar here from Sue-Ann's perspective. Like, that just seems bad. Like, obviously she doesn't know, like, about hunters, but, like...
Maybe she's waiting for his photo to get back from the printers.
Or maybe she doesn't know they're, like, how much that they will sacrifice for each other. She doesn't understand yet.
Yeah, I guess she just didn't know that was something she had to be prepared for. And then we cut between Dean being chased down by the Reaper and Layla about to be healed. Sue-Ann is at, like, the mouth of the tent doing whatever spell she needs to do. Dean is not doing good at avoiding this Reaper. He is, like, actively dying. Sam gets out of the cellar somehow. We don't see how. I have questions. But it's fine. He gets out. That's the important part. And he smashes her cross that she's wearing, like, around her neck to do these spells. And Layla says she doesn't feel any different when Roy's done. The Reaper does not appreciate being used by Sue-Ann to trade lives, and it takes her life. And I'm sad that Layla didn't get healed in the process, but...
I just had a thought.
Yeah.
So after Layla doesn't get healed, I think her mom is the one who has, like, the really, really, like, emotional reaction about it.
Yeah.
And it just got me thinking, like, this episode isn't really about the people who get hurt or are sick. It's about the people who are doing whatever they can to save them.
Yeah, it's about Sam's feelings and about Layla's mom's feelings.
And about Sue-Ann.
Oh yeah, and Sue-Ann, because her husband was dying. Yeah, that is interesting.
I just think it's really cool. Like, we have these, like, 3 different cases of someone else's loved one, like, going to extreme lengths to save them.
Whereas they're at least outwardly, like, resigned to the fact that they were going to die.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
I thought that was interesting.
Thank you for having that thought.
You're welcome. I've got lots of them.
How dare you make me have feelings?
I feel like that's gonna be, like, the new thing, is us just yelling that at people. These. Sam and Dean go back to the motel, and Dean expresses a lot of doubt, saying it doesn't feel like they did the right thing. Layla shows up, because Sam apparently called her, because Sam knows, and said that Dean wanted to say goodbye, and Sam excuses himself to go get a soda, and then he takes his time. Like a good brother. Layla tells Dean how Roy couldn't help her and mentions that Sue-Ann had a stroke, which is interesting because Layla has a brain tumor. The Dean says he's sorry that Layla believed so much in Roy, only be disappointed, and Layla says that's the thing about faith, you have to have it when the miracles happen and when they don't.
I love that.
Me too. Layla is a gift to humanity.
That's like an actual principle that I get taught in church, like, all the time.
I know Julia's gonna have to say something after the next thing that comes out of my mouth. I can already feel it. But Dean says he's not one to pray, but he's gonna pray for her, which she says is a miracle in of itself.
Yes, I did have something.
I
I was sitting here waiting, and he's like, anyway, yeah, so I think that's funny because, like, you know, later in the series, it's revealed that he sees praying as begging, and, you know, here he says that he's not the praying type, but he will pray for her. And this is another one of those examples that I like to think that one of the angels may have heard and may have saved her. May have heard Dean's prayer and may have saved her.
That's exactly the conclusion that I came to in the middle of that sentence.
Alright, I like that. Every time we just don't see a character again, I've decided that I just have free reign to decide they're living their best life.
That is the end of this episode, and nowhere near the Impala for once. Sorry, baby, but honestly, we don't need a wide shot of the car on an empty road every week.
It's like every month.
Yeah, just every once in a while, we can just end somewhere else. So, on to some of our weekly segments and panels, because we got some stats to update. This week, we saw 3 deaths, which brings our on-screen total to 128.
Damn.
And the on and off-screen total of this episode, we had Marshall and the jogger lady, and then 6 other people in the last year, and Sue Ann, which makes 9 on and off-screen, 801 plus.
That's a lot.
801 plus people. Fun times. We also try to assign an MVP of the week, so let's see who everybody wants to nominate. Let's start with Julia.
Oh man, I didn't have time to think about this one. I'm gonna go with the dog in the car.
I love you for that.
What a legend.
Jordan, who would you like?
Probably, I am going to go Sam, because Dean was just prepared to die. He's always prepared to die. Let's just be honest. He has a death wish.
Yeah, Dean is often prepared to just roll over and let death come.
He's like, well, I told you I was going to go out doing what I love.
Ouch.
Meredith, who are you nominating?
I'm gonna go with the Reaper.
Fair enough, the Reaper deserves some recognition.
The Reaper was working pretty hard.
I agree with Jordan. Sam found the Faith Healer, destroyed the altar and the cross. Dean did a lot of great support, good teamwork, but Sam very much the driving force this week. And then next, this show has so few women. Let's put it to the Bechdel test. Did we have 2 named women in this episode?
We had more than 2.
We had Sue Ann and Layla and Mrs. Rourke. Did they talk to one another?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody talked. And lastly, was the conversation about something other than a man?
Yep.
Yeah, Layla's brain tumor, hot topic of discussion this week.
Holy crap, guys.
This episode does pass the Bechdel test. Congratulations. So we're on to our case of the week mythology section. Does anyone want to talk about the Reaper, or did people want to save that for some other episodes about Reapers?
I'm saving it.
Okay, anybody else have anything about Reapers? Because I'm just gonna let Meredith go.
I just want to say, like, later on in the series, like, things about Reapers change. Why is this guy so old and crusty?
Maybe that's how he feels beautiful, Julia.
I think he's just scary looking.
It is time for Meredith to talk about Faith Healers.
Right, yes, okay. As we covered earlier, faith healing is the belief that divine intervention can heal you. And since this episode is about a Christian reverend, we'll be focusing on the Christian interpretation, though many religions believe that their god or gods can heal them. There are countless instances of faith healing in the Bible. The story usually starts with someone who is sick or physically disabled in some way. That person, or one of their loved ones, as we see in this episode, will approach the healer and ask them for their help, and in the end, the person is healed, and the healer tells them it was because they had enough faith. And there are a lot of variations, but the basic structure is the same. The healer is most often a prophet or some other man of God, and in the first few books of the New Testament, the healer is Christ. So sometimes they just lay their hands on the person who needs healing, and that's what they do in this episode. And other times, the more fun times, the healer tells the person to do something first. Usually they need to bathe in like a specific river or lake, which is associated with like baptism by immersion and like purification, so that's probably why they do it. And there was this one time where the guy needed to bathe in like, I think it was like the River Jordan like 7 times. Just imagining him counting that. It's like, the water is so cold. No matter what methods the healer uses, everything comes down to how much faith the person who wants to be healed has, and if God decides to heal them. What what does faith healing look like outside of the Bible? What you see on TV shows like Supernatural aren't a complete reflection of reality. By definition, faith healing can be as simple as praying to Heavenly Father and asking him to help you get over a cold. In my church, we have priesthood blessings, and sometimes people will fast and pray. Basically, you're asking God to help you and putting all your faith in him. Whether or not he will is up to him. Like, it has to be in God's best interest, but the important thing is that you ask and have faith. I wanted to have a real life case that kind of resembles the one in this episode, so I found a guy named Jack Coe. He was a Pentecostal evangelist who was born in 1918 and died in 1956, and apparently he was nicknamed